Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I thought I would do the trad witch tag. Probably I'll just give quick answers and not spend very long on it because it's well over 30 degrees today. I don't know what that is in American, but it's much too hot for me. So I have to turn the air conditioning back on soon. But anyway, the trad witch tag was started last year, I think, by the Polish folk witch, Mononqua. I think she went by that name then. And I'm quite late to this particular party, but that's okay. The first question is, what kind of craft do you practice, i.e. folk magic, traditional witchcraft, wicca, modern witchcraft, etc.? And I would say any number of things. Eclectic, folk, mostly. My handle is a cottage witch, so that to me is a combination of green, kitchen, and hedge witchcraft. But I'm not opposed to throwing in something else when it's useful, except for ceremonial magic. I don't really go in for that, personally. Number 2, what paradigm, faith, or philosophy informs your craft, i.e. spirit model, animism, neoplatonism, psychological approach, etc. And I'm going to combine this with the number 3, which is what culture is your practice rooted in, or cultures. And I would say for this, it's mostly land-based, from a combination of things. A combination of the lands of my ancestors in various places in Europe and where I currently am in Canada. So Irish, Scottish, Nordic, French, a bit of German, Ukrainian, Mennonite, just to liven things up every now and again. Mostly I work with plants and lately plant spirits. I used to align more with the psychological approach, but I've started to become surprisingly animistic. I say surprisingly in that I kind of surprised myself with that one. And also, as I've said before, I don't consider myself Buddhist, but I'm influenced by Buddhist philosophy. I find it very interesting and often very useful. Number 4, how long have you been practicing and how did it all start? There are 2 possible answers to that. Either just a few years ago, around 2018, 2019, I suppose, or since I was a kid who talked to trees. One or the other is where it started. There was an interlude there of Christian fundamentalist upbringing, which I wouldn't recommend. So it took me a while to sort of work my way out of that, because the brainwashing, if I can call it that, is considerable. Yeah, so just a few years, really. Number 5 is what books or resources have you first started with and would you recommend them to others? I actually didn't start with a lot of books except for books about plants, but I'll get into that in a second. I started with YouTubers, particularly the Hearth Witch, and I'll link her below, and yes, I'd recommend her channel. Very informative. She does her research and she's been doing this for many years, and seems to know what she's talking about, but also doesn't admits when she doesn't know something, so she doesn't pretend to know something that she doesn't, which I appreciate. As far as books, I haven't found a lot in the way of witchcraft specific books that I'd recommend, but I'll get into those later. I didn't really start with books except for plant books, which generally, yes, I would recommend. I've got another video up on my plant and book journey, and I think I would recommend most of the books in that video, and I won't rehash them all here because I've already done that video and I'd be bound to forget something. Number 6, how has your practice and or paradigm changed over the years? It's become more focused on plants. And as far as paradigm change, I focus more on what's going on internally in myself and less on any sort of organized religion. I also use more candles than I ever expected to. Number 7, what does your daily practice look like? What do you do on a regular basis? So, whoops. I would say that I don't do anything daily because I don't have the time or the energy for that. Mostly the energy. I could probably make the time, but I do not have the energy for anything daily. The closest to regular would be tarot draws that I do periodically, mostly to reframe things for myself, things I'm currently thinking about or focusing on, and also how to connect with plant spirits. So if I had a regular practice, that would be the closest to regular, but I'm really not. It's more when I need something or when I have energy, preferably both. Number 8, are there aspects of your craft that you need to keep secret? In your opinion, is secrecy important in witchcraft? I would say for safety. Many things I do are secret. Many people in my life don't know, but there's nothing I think I do that is inherently secret. It's more of a safety situation. I know some paths I've read about, like some indigenous plant spirit medicine and some of the esoteric aspects of Tibetan Buddhism, are secret because they have to be transmitted person to person to make sure the proper care is taken of that knowledge. And also in Canada, regarding indigenous practices, there have been quite a few attempts now to wipe out their practices, and some anthropologists have been extremely unethical, at least in the past, hopefully not in the present. So they don't always trust outsiders with their traditions, and that I think is completely understandable. But as far as my traditions, no, nothing is inherently secret about them. Number 9, what are some of your favorite tools that you use regularly? Plants, that's easy, hands down, plants. Also candles, as I said before, and baking supplies. Anything for baking or cooking or anything in the kitchen, really. Tea as well, lots of herbal teas and regular tea, all sorts of tea. And the last question is, what books or resources would you recommend to newbie witches interested in your kind of craft? I would say largely I would recommend a few YouTubers. Hearthwitch has a beginner playlist, which is perfect. It's excellent. Greenwitch, her videos are gorgeous, honestly. They're stunning. She is skilled in cinematography to a degree that I don't even aspire to. And she is a sort of herbalist witch. The Witch of Wonderlust is not, her practice is not really my style, but she has fantastic interviews. And so does the Bronx Witch with her Better Witch podcast. So I'd recommend those two just for interviews with people with different perspectives to get an idea of the possibilities. The Norse Witch for Norse witchcraft, and lately a little bit of Scandinavian folk magic, which is quite fun. And Laura O'Brien for Irish witchcraft. She's got something called the Irish Pagan School as well, which is quite useful. Personally, I'm going to the Wild Rose College for herbalism. That's in Canada. There are other options depending on what country you're in. I'm not sure the Wild Rose College particularly makes sense to people outside North America generally. I mean, you could. They're more international than I expected, which is good. But also, it does have a sort of Western North American focus because that's where they're located. And then on Instagram, there are a few people, Rowan and Sage and Linda Black Elk for herbalism as well, are very helpful. There are some books I've read for beginner books. I didn't find these when I was a beginner, but I found them since. There's Folk Witchcraft by Roger J. Horn and New World Witchery by, I've not written down the author's name, Corey Thomas Hutchinson, I think, which was really quite good. Scottish Witchcraft by Barbara Micklejohn Free. I'll put these in the description. And Scottish Herbs and Fairy Lore by Ellen Everett. I may have written that down wrong. Hotman. Braiding Sweetgrass is a stunning book by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It combines indigenous and scientific ways of knowing, and it really changed the way I think about plants. It's so beautiful. And then probably something like Peace in Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. He's influenced the way I think quite a lot. And then practical books about getting to know your local plants, like field guides. Field guides are fantastic, even with apps like Picture This is a great app, but field guides give you more information. And then I've started, as I talk about in the plant and book videos, that the third one may not be out by the time I post this. Actually, the second one may not be out by the time I post this. We'll see. But I think in the third one I talk about Conversations with Plants by Nikki Darrell. And that goes into a combination of herbalism and working with the plants, not just with their chemical components. So yeah, that's my response to the Tradwitch tag. About a year late, but oh well. And these, I was just flipping through the Song of the Grandmothers Oracle and the Gentle Tarot, which are both illustrated by, oh, that's upside down, Mari in the Sky. This one's by Kara Simmons, and it's so beautiful. I love it. And very, very land-based as well. So it suits me in that way. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.